还有我们的这个咖啡俱乐部哈，大家应该是非常熟悉了，我就不赘述了。API 的话呢，我们的原名呢是叫做华人咖啡俱乐部，我们呢是纽约州批准的501C3的非营利组织。思慧学院呢是 API 在教育领域的这个非营利的合作伙伴哈。此外的话呢，我们 IV Campus 也是我们这个Alliance for Impact 在升学方面的这样的一个合作伙伴。此外的话呢，在近几周呢，我们也是新成立了一个叫做耶法的一个非营利的组织。耶法的话呢，是我们这个青少年的公益项目的一个合作伙伴。思慧学院，我们是从2017年咖啡俱乐部和这个 API 哈，我们是在2017年的11月正式的成立的，已经是到目前为止呢，已经是将近快有5年的时间了。我们呢是从一个几十人的一个线上的一个小团队哈，现在呢已经是成长为了超过5万人的在线社群，并且同时有超过140个不同主题的微信群。我们每周的话呢，都会针对当下的这个热点的话题，举办各种不同的公益的讨论及讲座。思慧学院的话呢，我们是在2020年的8月份建立的，到目前为止呢，已经是为超过3000名的成人及青少年提供了这个高质量的课程及培训。此外的话呢，从今年开始呢，我们还建立起了一个叫做云健身的这样的一个平台。每周的话呢，我们会邀请不同的这一个公益的健身导师来为我们提供线上的瑜伽、舞蹈、武术、太极以及冥想等多个免费的课程。此外的话呢，今年我们还新增了亲子学院 TCPC。亲子学院的话呢，我们是关注这一个家庭的全方位的互助和知识的分享。我们有包括这个自闭症的互助群哈 ，ADHD 的互助群，幼儿故事会活动，单亲的爸爸妈妈养娃的这样的一个经验分享。此外呢，还有关注这个精神和心理健康的这个忧郁症的互助群。想要加入我们亲子学院以及这个云健身的平台的家长呢，之后的话呢，我会出现一个2维码，大家可以扫码加入这2个不同的学院及平台。我预告一下下周的几个非常精彩的讲座哈。首先的话呢，大家看到哈，这个最近这个硅谷的渣男事件是在这个全球华人圈是吵得沸沸扬扬哈。所以的话呢，我们也是临时在下周2增加了一个讲座，是关于这个信托以及遗产方面的知识分享。我们是请到了一位专业的律师哈，冉燕飞律师来给我们分享相关的知识。周5呢，我们是邀请到了在这一个一位非常年轻的全球这一个时尚帝国的 CEO Gabby佘佳音，她呢是这个 DVF 的全球总裁，我们将邀请她来为我们分享，作为一位华裔女性哈，如何在这个美国的职场打破这个时尚的天花板。周3的话呢，我们是新增了一个 IV Campus 的背景提升项目的介绍的这样的一个 info session。我们呢是邀请到了 Deborah Phillips， 她呢是哈佛心理学系的博士后研究导师，她将会来介绍她与 IV Campus 合作推出的一个关于这个心理以及这个正念方面的背景提升项目，非常适合我们的对心理和以及这个公共卫生及这个 Pre-Med 感兴趣的高中生，欢迎届时我们的家长也准时的参与。好，现在我介绍一下 IV Campus。IV Campus 呢，中文名叫指南针艺术教育，指南针教育咨询，它的前身呢是海域国际教育集团。IV Campus 呢，目前是 API 在这个升学领域的合作伙伴，是致力于为家长过滤口碑最好的前藤校招生官及独立升学顾问。并且对接优质的辅导课程及竞赛辅导等稀缺的教育资源。此外呢 ，IV Campus 会为我们的家长呢提供这个全方位的升学服务的支持及质量的把控，为孩子的升学过程及个人的成长呢保驾护航。同时的话呢，所有和 IV Campus 签约的升学的孩子呢，我们还会为孩子提供这个免费的志愿者的这一个服务，以及这个 community service 的咨询。另外的话呢，我们 API 以及思慧学院的一些非常优质的这个领导力及其他软实力提升的这个项目的话呢，也会优先的提供给我们 IV Campus 的学生。 好，进入到今天的讲座环节哈。今天呢，我们邀请到了这个非常资深的美高级美本的升学顾问 Shawna Lee 来为我们分享一下，公立学校、私立学校以及这个寄宿学校是如何的进行一个选择。此外的话呢，Shawna Lee 呢，他还是这个全人教育，英文名叫做 Whole Child Education 的专家。他呢，同时也会为家长们介绍这个全人教育的这个概念，以及全人教育该如何助力这个小孩的升学过程。好的，现在的话呢，我就把这个时间呢交给我们的 Shawna Lee。Shawna Lee 的话呢，他是韩国人，但同时的话呢，他会讲非常好的中文。Shawna。Yeah, I just mentioned that you can speak very good Chinese. Maybe you can start, introduce yourself with Chinese. Yeah.
I will do that. I will do that. 大家好，其实我是第3代的韩国华侨，我是我爷爷那一代就过去的，然后我妈妈那边是我妈妈那边过去的，所以说是中国血，是100%的中国血统。不过我的中国文化是对我来说是很深，可是语言方面没有像在国内像生长的一样的流畅，所以呢，我想今天用中文跟英文可能都混起来，希望大家可以包涵，如果是我的中文说的不是很好的话。好，那今天我来第一呢，我先想谢谢大家尤其是那个东岸的，现在晚上都9点多了，能够参加这个meeting，我感到很感谢感谢这个机会跟大家connect。好，那我现在我开始那个 share 我的 screen， 我说一下我们今天的讲题 ，OK。那现在就是说是我们尤其是家长在美国的学生呢，公立学校有的是很多很好的公立学校，然后呢，常常就会有家长会问，那我们是不是我们就上这个就是公立学校呢？在家附近的公立学校，还是选一个附近的私立学校，或者是就寄宿学校，那哪一个是可以通往就是最顶尖大学的一个好的途径呢？这个问题今天其实我不是给您一个因为一个明确的答案，因为是每一个学生有不一样的需求。不过我就现在给您一个解释，大概一个解释一下，然后呢，第二个我会分析就是怎么样你无论去公立、私立还是寄宿学校怎么样利用这个环境，然后这样让孩子脱颖而出。这是我照片在这儿。我是college application， 然后私立高中，然后寄宿高中，大学跟美高都有。那个简单的给您介绍一下我的背景工作背景呢，我是在湾区的一个大学预备高中的在那边做教师过，也是那个 admissions 入学部，所以要面试学生，还有看学生的 essay， 还有国际学生的 advisor director， 然后呢，我也做过公立学校，在这儿，这是我这个 Marshall High School 是我大学毕业的时候，一毕业了以后在那边教的书，然后旁边的是在湾区是个那个大学预备区的大学预备学习高中 college prep， 这是我的学生，这个一节课就是6个到10个学生。 然后我也在法国跟西班牙也教过法国是公立的，然后西班牙是私立的然后我也有过corporate experience， 就是大公司经理的经验然后这个都是在旧金山的然后我年轻的时候我觉得我是一个多元化的，所以我也是尽量帮着学生多元化。那我是我现在我也是艺术家，然后我20几岁的时候也有在台湾出过唱片，然后在好莱坞也是做过很多的音乐跟艺术方面的事情。UCLA 毕业的艺术跟我是两边都有一边是艺术，然后后来是 MBA 所以我觉得我的背景的时候，我在这边写的是韩国出生，中国、欧洲、美国人。我是一个 single mom， 两个女儿她们的11、12岁12、13岁的时候从欧洲回来美国然后就是我就是单身妈妈那她们两个现在一个已经毕业了，一个是在这两个女儿一个是还在布朗大学今年毕业然后中间的那个是我的大女儿是文学系主本科文学跟艺术摄影毕业那我背景呢我教过公立，我也教过私立，然后我的两个女儿公立高中也读过，私立高中也读过，这是大女儿。然后小女儿是一直是等她读的私立中学，然后去了寄宿高中，所以就是不以那个 consultant 的身份，就是以一个妈妈的身份的话我也可以跟你们一起分享我的经验经历那现在我们就是把这话题就打开，那是到底是公立呢？就是附近最好的很好的公立学校呢，还是私立呢？附近的私立呢，还是一个寄宿学校？应该选哪一个？那我呢就列了一些就每一个学校的这个 characteristics 是那就是说是这个我这样打的1、2、3并不就是1是最好的，那并不是100%的。那就是说就是大概，因为是每个学校还是不一样的那就是第一个就是说是class size 当然公立那个每班的人数最多通常是 boarding school 是最少的然后然后我们要问我们自己的孩子，我们自己的孩子呢如果是是大班的话对他有没有什么影响？如果是他是比较小班的比较好呢，还是要看每个孩子是吧？然后AP 的课程呢，大部分那个公立学校的 AP 课程很多有，因为公立学校大人数多，所以他们可以设立很多的 AP 课程如果是 AP 课程是很重要的话孩子对 AP 课就是非常拿手的话那他有很多机会可以选到，可以去读那个 AP 课。通常 boarding school 是比较少，因为是 boarding school 通常是除了 Exeter 跟 Andover 以外别的学校都不是像这那么大的，所以就是说是 AP 课程会比较少然后私立呢占了中间。第三个就是rigorous academics 这个 academics 是不是非常的不叫中文rigorous so 这个也是不是一定的 it varies 因为 public school 有的是非常的 rigor a lot of rigorous classes不过通常的话 boarding school 是比较它的课程是比较 我们就说就是前50名的或者甚至前70名的 boarding school 它的课程比较rigorous， 因为老师们大部分都是70%左右都是最起码有硕士跟博士学位的，所以他们的课程呢就算是还有那个private school 也是私立学校也是很多的老师也是师资很高。那 boarding school 通常他们会就是课程是比较偏向就好像是大学一样，还有大学1年级的课程，甚至大学2年级的课程那样的程度。当然那个私立学校也是有的时候也会有这样的情况。公立就是我们不能控制师资，因为是公立是他们应该是工会控制吧。然后easier to be at the top 10% of the class， 是不是这个呢？公立学校比较能够进到10%，前10%的机会比较大。然后 boarding 是不是最难的，因为top boarding school 都是有很多的 top students， 所以就是说是能够挤到前10名不是很容易。还有就是 curriculum diversity and quality， 这个就是说课程的是不是有很多不一样的课程，然后它的 quality 是不是很高？那呢因为 public school 是比较就老师多，所以不是很容易控制他们的那个quality。So 就是当然学校越小的话，就是越容易控制课程的 diversity。Differentiated teaching and learning, that is when you don't have a lot of students in each classroom, then you could tell which student needs more help, which student is more of a visual learner, which student is more of maybe they need to learn differently from so the teachers can design the lessons accordingly. If the more students in each class, the more difficult it is to do so. That's why this is ratings like that. Teacher-student ratio, I think that's very clear. 师生的比率当然是有的时候 private school 它的那个比率也是跟那个 boarding school 差不多，也是很少，学生少。然后 teacher 跟 student relationship， public school 比较难，因为是人多，老师没那么多时间，老师的课程因为在那个 private school 跟 boarding school， 老师的课程就是大部分就是4节课，然后 public school 最起码5节到6节课，所以学生而且每一班学生很多，所以能够有一个就是师生的关系比较密切的话，比较困难。Known as individual， 老师是不是认识你？也不只是认识你的你是什么样的学生，也是不是认识你一些你的故事。这个当然是人数少的学校，就是老师跟学生的比例，每节课比例小的地方，学校比较会you'll be known as individual much more。然后 diversity 这个其实现在是很重要。diversity 我们叫做 cultural competence for EDI for EDI or DEI。因为从了那个 Black Lives Matter 以后，我们就是学生的背景，学生能够就不止他们的背景，就是他们的生活之内范围是不是会接触到很多的diversity， 就是多元素吧，中文我想，那这方面呢，公立学校应该会占优先，因为是公立学校的人背景他的背景比较是多元化。boarding school 呢是学生都是背景都差不多的。peer learning 就是 学生教学生，就互相帮忙，这个是您可以看着321哈，因为是 boarding school 呢，因为他们都大家一直在学一起生活，所以你教我，我教你的机会比较多。social maturity 就是说，社交方面的成熟，因为这个是boarding school 占第一的原因是，大家一起生活，那常常会有冲突，那这个冲突呢，是本来表面上看不是很好，可是有了冲突的时候，就有去解决问题的一个机会，那所以就是会学习怎么样跟别的同学相处，这个机会很多，然后 college preparedness，这个也是 boarding school 比较占优先，是因为他们自己在 boarding school 有很多的要学会自制，自己怎么样控制自己的时间，自己怎么样去找老师联络老师，要有什么事情或者是功课需要帮忙的，所以很多很多的这些 skills 到了大学都可以用，然后就是 school clubs 就是有很多的俱乐部的话 public school 的应该是最多的，而且就是一个学生呢可以尝试很多不同的兴趣，然后有的时候会帮助找到他自己的兴趣，比较容易。extracurricular activities， 就是课外活动，也就是校外活动吧，校外活动的话 public school 是比较最好的，因为它是课外活动了，又比如说有什么足球队呀，什么篮球队呀，他们的那个程度都很高，比如说 private school 的话，就是学校比较少，所以它的 level 水平可能有的时候达不到那个 public school 那么高，boarding school 当然人数更少，所以就是它的水平是比较更低，所以很多的 extracurricular activity 的话，公立学校会比较做的比较好。work-life balance 就是生活跟工作的平衡，这个我写的我想是 public school， 因为是在家住，下课就会回来家，就可以离开学校，自己可以有自己的生活。就是如果是自己的生活控制很好的话，这个会比较有平衡。那 boarding school 是最不好的，因为是呢，就是大部分来说吧，就是因为是一直在学校，所以有的时候你工作跟生活就是读书跟生活呢全部都混在一块儿。personal growth， 个人成长呢，我写的是 boarding school， 因为是boarding school 就是有点像一个小大学一样，就是怎么样就是把个人可以就是认清自己的机会比较多，失败的机会也多，成功的机会也多。然后再下一个，最后一个，还有就是 internal competition， 这个比较重要。internal competition 是哪一个最激烈呢？最激烈的是 boarding school， 因为大家都是高材生的话，通常80个学生左右，就是平均来说的话，那最起码一半都是高材生。或者是70%高材生，所以大家要竞争比较强点，然后就是说，因为大学呢，就是顶尖大学，他们收的学生大部分都是就是他们的10%的前茅，就是名次吧，或者是考的，就是成绩大概是10%以内的。所以 boarding school 呢，它就是比较激烈，它的internal competition， and reputation of the high school， 这是学校的 reputation 名誉。这个 boarding school 会当然优先，private school 也差不多两个。不过有的 public school 就是像纽约的 Stuyvesant， 纽约的School of the Arts， LaGuardia， 旧金山的 Lowell High School， 比如说吧，有很多这些高中也是非常非常有名的。那除了这样的例子以外 ，boarding school 通常是比较就是知名度比较大。然后下个就是 school college counseling availability， 那学校的大学升学顾问呢，他们是不是有时间帮每个学生？那我知道公立的话是因为学生很多，是有的高中甚至是一个顾问照顾100个学生200个学生。private school 大概是一个学生照顾一个顾问的照顾，这个不一样，大部分来说我照顾个40左右。boarding school top boarding school 就是很多，就是1:20左右。那哪一个学校是我们叫做 big fish in a small， 我那个少那个字 small pond， 哪一类的学校比较容易做在一条小池的大鱼呢？因为做大鱼是最好的，所以呢就是通常 boarding school 比较占的优先，因为它本来就是比较小。人数也少，然后就是比较容易出人头地。这些school characteristics 并不是说是100%的，就是都是一样的。那也是要看哪个高中，哪一个私立学校，哪一个寄宿学校都不一样，每一个学校都有他们自己的 characteristic， 而且呢，就怎么样选择呢？选择就是答案，就是在每一个学生的需求每一个孩子他自己的我们叫 strength， 自己的力量，自己的优点，然后自己的挑战都不一样。而且有每一个学生呢they thrive in different environments。比如说有的学生不喜欢就是可以就是很显眼的，一看就是在一个很小的环境话他感到有点不自在，他喜欢a little bit more anonymous 无名的，就是不是无名，就是他不喜欢有太多的注意力。有的学生呢就是他注意力越多的话，他就是做的什么事就越起劲儿。然后最后就是 professional expertise in guiding students in each category。 OK， 然后就是呢就是不论哪一个最后选哪一个高中呢，然后进了高中并不说是就是100%的就可以进到顶尖学校。那怎么样有就是 professional expertise， 想找一个别的顾问来帮助学生。那就是怎么样帮助学生做一条大鱼，在一个大学校做大鱼，或者在一个小学校做大鱼。那这个就是我的第二个话题。就是我 college application process with a whole child approach。就是不只是大学申请，很多家长呢，有的时候学生明年就是秋天呢就是12年级了，然后8月的时候我们要去找一个大学顾问升学顾问来帮我们申请大学。这个时候有点当然不是太晚，可是呢就是如果是因为跟学生认识的机会越多时间越久，指导的时间越多的话，就是认识这孩子，不只是他是一个学生，而且他是一个 有他人生经验的一个人，那我们说的是 whole child， 就是整个孩子，全人来看的话，我们要不只是帮助他填表格，写论文、写文书那一类的话，那是一定每一个当然都是要做的。I see somebody raise their hand. Vivian, I think.
I think maybe somebody just mistakenly raised their hand.
Okay. All right. I was just saying that.
By the way, we will have the Q&A session at the end. So I mean, for parents who have questions, you can just post in.
Could I just
post in chat box? Yeah.
Okay. Could I just check with everybody? Is my Chinese doing okay, or should I switch to English?
I think if you feel it's more comfortable to speak English, you can switch to English. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if majority are Chinese, I would like to. I mean, I feel closer. And more connected. So, anyways, a whole child. So we have a lot of elements. So when I consult, I think about. Let me see if I. So, what is it, right? And so in here, it is social, 社交方面, physical health, 身体的健康, especially these days, girls have a lot of problems with body image, and so how do we address that? Emotional health, social especially, how are they dealing with their relationship and friendship? All these things are extremely important, because if you want them to do really good work in high school and get the great GPA, do the great SAT test, and have lots of great activities and be the leader in their school, and write fantastic application, but without the foundation of a happy child, it will be very difficult to achieve all these goals. So the way I do consulting, I don't just fill out the forms and say, okay, now let's find out what your story is. Let's write your essay. And that is like the last resort. But will be, if possible, I usually have worked with students for many years before we actually apply to college. So that, which is an extreme luxury. So the whole child, the college consulting is, of course, you have to give the family all the professional expertise about what college to apply and that college list and so on and so forth. And what is the right process, and when do you do this, when do you do that, when do you apply, when do you write essays for early decision schools and early action schools, and when do you do the regular decision schools, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of questions and lots of stages, and those are just logistics, which is very important. But before we get there, it's that in order to write the best possible essays and stories, in order to have the best possible resume, so they can have the best possible activities written on their application, and in order for them to find their passion, and how do people like myself in my profession help my teenagers to do that? And it's, to me, it's that it comes first and foremost, not my intellect, not my expertise, not my knowledge, but those, yes, but the most important thing is the heart connection. And it sounds like cliche, but what does heart connection do? Just like, oh, I love you, student, and because in English we say, oh yeah, hey, love you. It's very, very, it's almost like a cliche. But what I what I found from my years of teaching, even with my corporate clients when I was working as a corporate manager, is that when you connect with people, when your students, your clients, anybody, your friends, when they know that you care about them, they will do their best for you and for themselves. And that is also it's not just paperwork. It's not just merely discover the best possible stories. And so all these are background work, and it's a foundation, and in order to give the students the platform to do their best work. So self-discovery, self-confidence, and by me valuing them, letting them know how I value them as a person. And also, one of the really important thing is absolutely judgment-free. It's not just positive reinforcement. Okay, we're not going to do negative reinforcement. We'll do positive reinforcement. That's yes. But the most important thing is no matter what they tell you, no matter what how the parents are working with the students, and any kind of relationship that they have, any issues are all okay. And so for parents, I listen. I don't really give them judgment. So, oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do this. And students, same thing. There's no word called should or should not. And by being judgment-free is to be a really good listener. And I'll talk more about that with some examples. So my brand of whole child consulting, it's really to let the kids to become resilient. So resilience meaning there's I would say just like they're healthy meaning they're emotionally healthy, and their drive comes from themselves. It's not coming from external motivation. It's not coming from, oh, because X wanted me to do this, because I wanted to do this. Self-motivated and be present and for themselves and for others, and healthy relationship and healthy physical health. And it says, you don't have to be perfect to be amazing. And our society, is especially Anglo-Saxon culture, just really stresses on being perfect. And I think that I see a lot of my students struggle with that. I gave something like think. If sometimes they run into some issues, and I give my students a lot of slogans to use that they can use for the rest of their lives even. So why is it so important? Why is it so important for the college process? So yes, we can see it's important for psychological health or for friendship, for any kind of relationship. But what's it got to do with college application process, and to have this trusting connection? First and foremost, to write college essays. These elite colleges have first you have a common app essay that goes to all the colleges, which is a huge one. And then each college, the elite colleges have at least another 2 or 3 essays they have to write again. So some of them you can copy and paste, but a lot of them more and more you have to really think about what you're writing and what are you telling. And so by having the time to process, to connect, they are my students and my families too, because the parents also would tell me stories, and then I can work with the students and the family. What are the stories that are not told, or the students are not afraid to tell them. Sometimes they'll just say something they think is very unimportant, but then because I know them really well by then, and I can say, oh wow, wait a minute, there's something more to that. So they are able to write quite unique, compelling essays. And so speaking of essays, which is we know that every year for the last 2 years, because of test optional, we're having more and more applicants for elite colleges since SATs and ACTs are no longer required. And last year is about 20-30% increase, and this year yet another 20-30% increase in college applications for elite colleges, which means the colleges are not going to go out and hire more essay readers. And they probably will, but they're not going to hire in that same proportion, which means before, if you write a really great, compelling, engaging essay, you will probably get 15 minutes tops to read for your essay to be read. And this year, it's like 10 minutes. So, which means you have to, the students really have to write something authentic, true to their heart, something that it doesn't have to be a fantastic story, but some story that really needs to connect to the heart. And they learn how to do that, working with a professional people like me that they can connect with, trust, and then so that they can, their essays are authentic expression of who they are. When you have a trusting relationship, that's when I can help guide them for activities and try to find some passion or some activities that has meaning to them. And I'll go over some examples with my case studies later. So the self-knowledge, that's another thing. When we have a trusting relationship, we work out issues, we work out life problems, from something small to something big, family issues. But once you have somebody who can be your guide, who can listen to you, not solving your problems, but help you find a solution, and you gain that self-knowledge and self-confidence, and then so that you could have some peace of mind. So, okay, that issue is solved. So let me get to work. Let me go do my history homework. Let me do my SAT prep or whatever. This is why I do the way I do it. So how do I support them? I keep on saying heart connection, right? So what does it mean? It's I think it's like it's to show up with courage. It's the word courage is blocked a little bit by the camera, I think, at least from my side. So 勇气 in Chinese, the courage, courage. So courage comes from a word Latin, core is heart. Courage doesn't really mean to be brave. Courage actually, really what it means is tell what's in your heart. That's what the word courage comes from. And this is, so I have that one word, just courage, to teach my students and my families, the parents, how do you tell what's in your heart? And it's really important that I teach my students to stay loving and respectful and with empathy. And I don't just tell them or tell the parents or the students. The most powerful way of teaching is modeling. So I am the one who is respectful to my students and to the parents, and I am the one who actually tell my stories to my students and to my families. My families meaning the parents. What is in my heart, and so never blame anybody. Always think about coming from the most loving part of myself, and therefore. My students learn the same thing, and listening, and by me modeling listening, they listen too. and I also show them another way to look at something, not actually telling them what to do, but just showing another perspective, maybe from my own story perhaps, but never telling them what to do. And then I also said that develop a tool belt for resilience. And those tool belts they can use for high school, and I call them life tool belt that I use. I use, I'll explain some of them during the case studies. And they're just wisdom, phrases of wisdom, and that I use every day for myself too. Okay, so I'm going to do a case study. I'm going to do four students, and then I'll conclude my presentation today. The first case study is actually I'm sort of doing chronologically, like a little further back, and then to the current one. And this is my daughter. Actually, I decided to showcase my daughter with her permission. So she went to boarding school. She went to I think, I'm not sure if it's still a top boarding school. I haven't checked, but it's like number 12, number 10, number 9 top boarding school in the country. And so what was my guidance to her? It's difficult because I'm a parent as well. So she went to public schools in France. She grew up in France. She went to private middle school, one of the top middle school in San Francisco. So she felt very displaced when she came back to America. Family is broken up because my husband and I divorced. So she just wanted to be she just did not want to be with family. She wanted to be independent. And so I, basically let her find her solution. And that when she told me that she wanted to go to boarding school, and I almost fell on my chair. I was like, no, it's so far away. And then later on, she felt still trapped. She wanted to go further. And so I helped her with the research, and she ended up in Beijing. Finding her independence. I with the conversation I had with her it was about fear of not able to make it on her own because she can't depend on a family. That's for she was 14 when she went to a Thatcher school, and she just thought, well, families I can't depend on, it can be broken up. So I'm just going to be on my own. I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to be independent. So I, stood on the side and let her go. And so I did a lot of listening and a lot of research. And her college essay is about independence. She realized the year in Beijing taught her a really hard lesson. It was a very difficult year. She was sick a lot. Was in a homestay was very, very unpleasant. But but she knows that there's no rescue. That she is out there for independence and she's going to earn it. And she wrote a fabulous essay about that, her year in Beijing, and her gratefulness of Beijing as well. So one of the wonderful thing about this is her art supplement. She's a singer. She's a singer-songwriter. So we did her art supplement on that. And I made a video. She did not want me to make videos. And I just said, you need to show yourself. So I let her choose. And I gave her some examples, and then she came around. So she actually ended up at Brown. She had quite a few offers. So this is the right college for her. And I think one of the supplements in Brown at the ear, it says, "Can you describe your neighborhood or where you came from?" And she wrote this fabulous essay. So I actually, because she's a boarding student, and I had to, I actually really every time when she came home, I integrated her with the neighbors that I got to know, or anybody around the neighborhood. I would have dinner parties and invite people over, so she got to know a lot of these people. And she wrote about the blue-haired, tattoo artist, the Brazilian actor, who took care of our dog, and so she had all these different characters. And then she called it that was her home. So from her independence, she found her home, and that was I was very, very moved by her stories. My second example is she's a freshman right now. She went to public school. She went to a LaGuardia School of the Arts. She got into Stuyvesant as well, another really top public school. But we chose LaGuardia, and private school was not an option for her, and she did not want to go to boarding school. So her problem was she was a very how do I say it? She's very formal, just on the surface. She doesn't hug you or doesn't laugh out loud, or everything is just very very controlled. And her writings on all her essays it was just very descriptive. She just could not put herself into the story. She could not. It was too much of a risk. So because I had worked with her for a long time, so this is her one of the Duke supplement. I just screenshotted. The original version is about during the pandemic, and she basically just describes there's an ambulance, and then a long line of ambulance arriving across from her bedroom. It's just a description. And then from getting to know her, little by little, it was very difficult for her to express vulnerability. And then I said, well, when that happened, but your mom was working in the hospital, what did you feel? So on and so forth. But we had that conversation was possible because I had known her for 3 years before then. So eventually she started to express how she felt, not just what she saw. And she got into Duke. She was a finalist in one of the prestigious scholarship. So this is my intervention, for example, for college APWISE. So all her college essays, she had to write them. And Duke was the easy one that we did that at the very end. So just second try, she was able to do it. Many essays we had to do 6, 7, 8 times until the reader can connect with what she's writing. And then she, when one of the stories she told me about, just getting to know her, she told me about her grandmother was having who was passing away with Alzheimer's, and no one can go there. She was in China, and so I gave. But before then, when I found out about her grandmother had Alzheimer's, I introduced her to this film called Alive Inside, if I remember correctly. And she saw that film. It's about people with Alzheimer's with headphones of music that they listen to when they're in their teenager or 20s, and you can just see their eyes just come out, just lit up. It was a documentary. And then, so she went to a nursing home and started playing saxophone because she's a musician. Saxophone every single Sunday for 4 years. And then she found, it's called United Under Arts. It's a nonprofit. Within 8 months, it was incredible because it was her passion was there. She wanted to reach more people with music, so she created an organization using arts to help people. She even had classes, and it was just incredible. And then she was offered many interviews for a scholarship, a very prestigious merit. Again, she was just so wooden, just like she could not let herself relax and be who she can be. And we worked on that a lot. And I know sometimes, she was in tears. She realized she wasn't so much pressure just in life, and that let off a lot of pressure. I did not drive her to tears. That's not what I meant. But anyway, so this is I'm so proud of this. So proud of her. So this is she's a musician, but she's actually extremely strong in STEM. Incredible. She was actually I think she was going to do something with neuroscience, but she's not sure yet. College result, she had one full ride UVA, one Vanderbilt full tuition. And this is not financial aid. This is just purely merit scholarship. And Duke, she was a alternate finalist. Harvey Mudd as well. So she had been. It was incredible. She decided to go to University of Virginia, which is a public Ivy, 公立常春藤, because everything's paid for. She has incredible opportunities with this Jefferson scholarship, and she's a Jefferson scholar now. And this is what she texted me a while back. So I just screenshot. And for me, I said, I will always be standing by to support you in the years to come. If you choose to be. But anyway, so this is my next student. His name is Hudson. Hudson is in a private school in Alabama. It's a top private school in Alabama called Indian Springs. And he was a very quiet young kid. I knew him when he was 8th grade, middle school. Soccer player, but just didn't have any other interest, just soccer. The academic was so-so. Was good enough, but not something very passionate about. And he became a multifaceted young man. 5 years I worked with him. So I actually asked him to take arts in the theater. So he became an incredible actor. He just finished Xanadu last weekend. He got the lead part, singing and dancing. He had never sang and never danced before high school. He also ended up directing and writing a play. He also took Vanderbilt 6 months research mentorship for theater and directing. But I think he's really interested in environmental science. He has his own fishing club, and he's an incredible student leader. Student government is just everywhere. So he came out of his shell, and but every time when he was going to try out something, we talk it through. We talk about what he's going to talk about and how to present himself. So every step of the way. But there was emotional crisis as well. He had a heartbreak. His first girlfriend lasted for 2 weeks, and it was just right before all these exams, and he was just beside himself, couldn't sleep. So I intervened by listening, by validating him, and giving him different views. Family crisis as well. Father lost his job for a while, and was the aunts were his aunts were creating crazy situations at home. So all these counsel him how to how to still have the peace of mind to do what he does best. And he discovered that he's not an intimidated, shy teenager anymore. And so he decided he got into Wesleyan, this excellent theater program, and also environmental science. And his college counselor at school says, "What are we going to do next year without Hudson?" That's what she said to me. And this is what Hudson says: "I am his half mom and forever." Very proud and honored to be so. My last case is Lynn. She goes to Philip Academy at Andover. It's a top boarding school in the country. She had so much self-esteem problem. And I had her for 2 years, and I still have her. And so it's, I basically worked with her until she found a passion and mental health advocate and leader. And she established this mental health chapter called Active Minds at Andover, which was a very big deal. She was an amazing dancer. But that was all she had. And she always felt very insecure. Everybody else better than her. She suffered quite a bit. And it's also a boarding school, a top boarding school. Everybody's the top kids. And so for her, it was very difficult to stand out. And her self-esteem had a huge hit. She rebelled against her mom and had a conflict with her elder sister. So I helped with the family, her parents as well, in how to work with her. When she found her passion, and she became quite a leader. And then she did a lot of mental health research during summer with UC Santa Barbara, and also Vanderbilt as well. So she's thinking about doing psychology, PhD research one day. That's for now. So this was her activity when I had her. She didn't have too much. It was just all dance, choreography, dance group, dance. And after a year working with her, after she found her passion, she had psychology, mentorship research. She was a mental health intern that she also got paid for, and a UCSB research, and then also became a big leader. Oh, there's a big spelling there. Became a co-president at her school. And it says about she is doing incredible service. And again, I am proud of her. So far, she got into UVA. They have a really good writing program as well. She also wants to write. And then she's waiting we'll find out more. This is what she wrote, that I'm not only a mentor, but also a friend. That I guided her through many of her emotional journeys and to embrace her authenticity and creativity. Okay, even through the college application process. All right, I hope I didn't just rush through, but I wanted to make sure that I finished in good time, so on time as well. So it's Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing, and then okay, I'm not sure how do I stop sharing this now.
I can do from my side.
Here we go.
Okay, thank you, Shawna, for such a good webinar. And we will switch to QA session. But before the QA session, I will introduce Wiswise Academy's summer camp a little bit. 好的，那其实我就完全可以讲中文哈，因为Shawna老师也听得懂中文。好的，我插播一个我们的这个广告哈，Wiswise 大家都知道哈，就思慧学院，我们的话呢会在这一个夏天的首次推出我们的线下的 夏令营，这是一个sleep away 的 summer camp， 主要的这个项目的话呢，会聚焦在这个财商还有这一个创业及领导力方向。大家可以看到哈，时间是7月24号到8月6号，我们的一些福利的话呢，包括所有参加的这一个学员哈，可以免费的参加一次全国商赛的辅导。此外的话呢，我们还会有专属的人员进行一个全程的一个陪伴。此外，手机也是严格的管理。然后这一个 summer camp 的价格呢，是现在报名的话呢是2975。大家如果感兴趣的话呢，可以扫目前屏幕上的这一个二维码。一会儿的话呢，我也会把这一个小助手的二维码这个微信的这个 ID 发到 chat box 里面，大家可以加他来具体的了解我们思汇的首次的线下夏令营的详情。好的，跳到下一页。好的，现在大家可以看到的是我们思汇2022年的春季的一些课程哈。其实大家可以看到这个课表上，我们还是更加的是聚焦在我们的这一个少儿财商以及青少年的这个投资培训上面。正好的话呢，也是在这里和大家分享一个很好的消息哈。思汇我们在去年免费培训带队的这个10个沃顿商赛的队伍呢，目前呢是有2支是进入到了全球top 50这个 top 50的这样的一个 round。然后的话呢，是前几天我们也拿到了消息，我们其中的一个队伍呢是进到了全球的 top 10，他们的话会将在这一个下个月亲自的就是到沃顿来进行他们的 final presentation。此外，我们的这个 Diamond Challenge 的这个比赛的话呢，也是最终有2个队也是进到了这个 final round。目前的话呢，也是在准备他们的这个 presentation。所以大家可以看到哈，思汇在这一个财商以及青少年投资方面的这一个实力还是非常强的。这个的话呢，是我们夏季的一些课程的安排。在夏季的话呢，我们会增加这个 public speaking 和 debate foundation 的这个课程。所以孩子对这个辩论以及这个 public speaking 感兴趣的话呢，欢迎您联系我们的小助手来咨询这个课程的详情。好的，我现在就转回我们的 Q&A 的 session。在 Q&A 之前的话呢，提醒一下大家，IP Campus 的话呢，我们是有这一个专门的升学的微信群的，所以如果您还没有加到这个微信群里面的话呢，您可以扫这个小助手，这个屏幕右边的这一个二维码，其实就是我的这个个人的微信哈，我会把你们加到这个升学社群里面来。如果您对这一个Shawna李老师的这样的一个咨询服务感兴趣的话呢，您可以直接的扫码这一个左边的二维码，然后您会填一个简单的表格，我们这边的工作人员的话呢，会帮你来进行一个对接。好的，现在我的屏幕的话呢，就停在这个2个二维码上面，我们就进入到我们的 Q&A 的环节。Hi, Shawna.Yeah, we can start the Q&A now.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go through the questions. Okay.
Looking at the
so,
chat.
Yeah, looking at the chat. So somebody asked, for private and boarding school, you mean less AP classes, but more rigorous in regular class. Is that right?
I mean, nothing is set in stone because it depending on each school is different, but in generally speaking, yes, because public schools have more students, therefore they can have the luxury of many AP classes, while as for boarding schools, especially, have the least amount of students usually compared to private and public. Yes, so. They would have less AP classes, but do keep in mind that colleges would look at how a student took advantage of everything that a school has to offer, and did the student take the most rigorous course within what your school has to offer. So for public schools, if you have a lot of AP classes, and therefore you probably would want to have a lot of AP classes in your transcript. While as a boarding school, some boarding schools do not have AP classes. Some do not believe in AP classes, even some private schools. It's beginning to be a trend right now. A lot of schools are getting rid of APs. The colleges would basically would look at what each school has to offer, and then what they're interested in is that have you tried your best to take the most rigorous courses, AP or not AP.
Okay, so I have another question. So for schools do not offer AP classes, do you think the students have to go outside to take the AP courses by themselves and take the examination? Do you think that's necessary?
No, absolutely not. No, unless, for example, if a school doesn't have AP calculus, the BC, or every once in a while they may it might be the case that you could, but for boarding school, for example, one of my client student is going to an incredible school. I think it's top, I forgot, 61, 60 something, boarding school. And it has very, very few students. They don't accept many students, but there's no AP. So one student has an incredible math skill, and he's going to finish all the math classes by junior year. And so the school actually will help him find an online class, but the math teacher was actually going to be the advisor. So he still has a teacher, but it just the course is going to be taken online. But that's a very rare case. So no, it's not when you compare school to school, it's not apple to apple comparison. So it's what you do within that environment. So that is the most important.
Okay. Okay, let's go to next question. So in general, what are college admission officers' views on these three types of schools? Do they add points to certain type of schools? Do they favor certain type of schools over another one?
Well, there are always schools that are feeder schools. We call it feeder schools, right? So, for example, let's say Andover, it's almost like a feeder school to U of Chicago. And there's some schools and some colleges, some elite colleges have a special relationship. And Thatcher sends at least, I don't know, I know that every year they would have 4 to 6 acceptances from Stanford. And that's out of 60 kids of 60 kid class. So they don't have 4 to 6 Harvard, but they always have 4 to 6 acceptance from Stanford. So it's so they have this kind of special recognition for each other. So we're talking about the top schools, right? So, and also top public schools, really good public schools. The key is how do you stand out? In whatever the pond you're in, big pond, small pond, medium pond, how do you stand out as the big fish so that you can be one of the top 10 or top 5%? So it's, there's really no cookie cutter answer for this. It really depending on the student, depending on what kind of school. So, but usually boarding schools, the top boarding schools are very well connected because the type of families that go there. So, you have some very important families go to these schools and they have the endowment. So there's a lot of relationship building over decades.
Okay. So, next question. So do private and boarding schools focus more on let's say liberal arts courses than STEM courses, like 文科理科。
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay. Let me think. No, not necessarily. No, because it's the private schools and the boarding schools. The private schools I'm talking about private school. I mean college preparatory school. 大学预备课，大学预备高中。So, they're usually for junior year, starting from junior year. It's that the courses are basically considered to be college to prepare for college courses. So it's actually in between high school level and college level. So that's why it's called a college prep. And boarding schools are all, top boarding schools are all college prep as well. So you don't have classes that are not in between high school level and college level. So you have all different departments. So you have the science department, you have the math department. And because they have the resources, they have not, it's like every department, it's like a small little college. Every department has, I know that, for example, for math and multivariable, which is after calculus, multivariable is sort of like everybody has it, because it's considered to be high level math. And after that, of course, all kinds of when I see the math classes, like, oh my God, I don't even know what they are. Differentiated something. But public schools have that too. I'm sure it's also very, the level is not so much the levels, but it's just like how much resources does each school have to devote into that, into whatever that the student is interested in. If it's in the arts, if it's in STEM, some public schools are very well funded. So it really depends on the schools, but in general, obviously the private schools and the boarding schools have more resources to fund their programs.
OK. Next question. 我直接中文说了。作为国际生上私校还是上公校比较有优势？私校的话，可能亚洲人会更多一点。那国际生的话，能靠什么脱颖而出
？Hudson 的例子，就是他是国际学生，他是从天津来的，他当然不能去公校，可是他在私校真是脱颖而出。他们那边是10%吧，是中国学生，可是他是像国际学生，私校公校不晓得是会哪个学校会亚洲人多会少，也是看哪个地区。不过就是越往上越顶尖的学校，它的人数亚洲人数不是很多。不过就是脱颖而出呢，就是我的建议就尽量去做能够参加就是那个 team sports 比如说是篮球也好，什么就是足球队呀那这样你会很就是比较容易的会打进本地的学生的文化，然后就是戏剧用那个 arts 来打进他们的那个文化。那国际生呢，就是怎么样能够吸收当地的文化，然后把自己变成世界人是吧？我们叫 world citizen。因为是因为大学升学的时候呢，他们也是国际生跟国际生之间也是个竞争，因为如果是有2个国际生要申请布朗大学的话，如果他们2个都是非常好的学生，可是当然他们不可能2个都会收，是吧？ 所以就是国际生资金也是跟国际生资金也是竞争的，所以能够尽量的把自己变成多元化的学生。
那我这边其实我个人有个问题就比方说，如果国际生他在这个私校里面，他做一些宣传中国文化的东西就是说可能因为基于他这个背景嘛，他可能做一些 club 或会做一些活动来宣传中国文化。那这个时候他是应该就是宣传他的中国文化呢，还是应该就是说要融入到我们说的美国的这个文化里面，就是说可能要参与更多的美国这边的一些活动？
特别好的问题。因为当时有一个 school characteristic， 我们谈的是 diversity， 就是多元化。那 diversity 并不只是我们的种族的diversity 不一样，而且也是我们叫做EDI equality and diversity and inclusiveness and justice。那这个所以我们现在就是谈很多，又从了 Black Lives Matter 以后，我们现在就是很关心social justice， 就是社会正不晓得社会正义the social justice 呢。那Hassan 就是这个例子。Hassan 他弄的是他参加了这个 diversity conference， 每年一次学校会选拔几个学生要去4-5天的每年在一个城市集合。那他是从中国来的，根本就什么都没，他不知道有什么这个 diversity 这样的情况。他后来回来的时候，他说：“那我们的 diversity， 那我们就谈一下那 social justice 是什么东西。”那他后来我们就是他学到就是 social justice 并不是说是能够同情某一组人的困苦 suffering， 并不是说我们可以感受到做黑人的困难或者是他们的 suffering， 我们可以感到亚洲人的在中国的或者是Asian American 的困苦，或者是怎么的。而且呢，除了这个以外呢，这个不是 social justice， 是能够看出来自己美丽的地方在哪儿。我们能够体验作为黑人的叫黑人文化的美丽，亚洲中国就是亚洲人的美丽，就是can you feel the beauty of that people？ So 你应该是就是就是当你融入在就是当地人的文化然后认识他们的文化，打进他们的生活。可是呢也是要表扬自己的并不是说是表扬自己我来美国很遭罪，我来美国的这些经历非常的困难，让人同情。这也是很好。不过然后我们再发扬我们自己的美丽地方是什么地方，然后来跟别人一起分享。所以就是两方面都应该做。Hassan 就是他用了他的 fishing club， 这个学校有一个很美的湖里有鱼，他就组织了一个钓鱼的club， 然后他用 Instagram， 他介绍了很多很美丽的湖在中国。然后学生呢他的这个俱乐部呢，然后就是学习到了很多的关于中国钓鱼方面也好风景就是有湖的地方，还有它的历史，他都介绍给大家。所以他就是这样，他是这个交换。
OK， 所以其实就听起来总结起来就是说其实两边都需要有都要做一些，而不是说只是说待在其中的一边。但如果让两边的可以彼此交流起来，可能是会是个最好的一个 result， 对吧？
欣赏别人的美，然后发扬自己的美。
OK，
这样分享。
Okay, it's a very good answer. So go to next question. So some parents give 2 questions for Shawna. One is, why is being a big fish in a small pond is the easiest at boarding school? If you mention boarding school actually is the most competitive.
It's a good question because, it's not a clear-cut answer. That sometimes it is very hard to stand out in a boarding school or private school because it's very, very competitive. And so the advantage is that let's put it this way: to be a big fish in a public school is actually sometimes it's easier because to be the top 10%. Probably maybe even less competitive, but depending on the kind of public school we're talking about. So if you have a public school that you think it's good public school, but you think that your child can be very competitive in there, that it could just certainly be the big fish, and that would be a good choice too. But for boarding schools or private schools, and private schools are usually like 80 kids as well, and boarding schools about the same, 60 to some kids, some more, but average about the same, about 80 kids. And because student teacher ratio is so low, when I was teaching, I had 8 to 10 kids. I knew every single one of them. I knew them. I knew their family. I knew where they come from. I knew, if they just look at me, I already know what they want after being with them for years. And also the class, the way it's a teaching style too. And private schools and boarding schools especially, they have the resources to keep on training the teachers. I went to so many different workshops, learned so much, whatever that's new. I also taught in public schools, and they also have some resource that too. So depending on the teachers, but in general, I learned how to teach in private school so much better. I'm a better teacher because I was trained. There was a resource for me to train me, and it's a student-centered teaching and learning. And I know public schools are also doing that, but because the teachers' workload, I remember I taught 6 classes, so I had no time to design my classes to the way that I wanted to design. I could not do all these activities that I wanted to do with my students. It's just too many students. You had to control behaviors. It was much more difficult, but I know people are doing it. There are some very dedicated public school teachers are doing that. But it's more conducive for private school and for boarding school. It's because you only have 4 classes to teach, if at all, sometimes 3. And I had 2 hours a day just to prepare my lessons and try to figure out some interesting way to teach so that I don't talk. And my students are the ones who are doing the teaching and learning with each other. And so yes, in that case, it's very easy to stand out. If you work really hard and socially you can stand out too, because it's a smaller environment. So if you strive, and if you have a guidance to strive, and it's easier to be noticed, and then all the resources that's available for you as well.
Okay, so the next question. So at what grade or age do you recommend students start having a college consultant like you?
Most of my students start with grade 9. And grade 9, we meet once a month. We talk for about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. The topics can be very thought-provoking to something, just conversation. And a lot of conversation and that's when trust is built. And so, one of the topic I remember for one of my 9th grader was if a house catches on fire, you can only take one thing. What would that be? Just one thing, and you have only actually just 10 seconds to get it. So just something for the kids to think about. And I also give a lot of questions like that for parents to talk to kids, like during dinner table or something like that, just as so that it's not just the students talk. And because I actually model it, and I said, so I would tell them what I would take, not. And I would look around the room and say, okay, what can I take? So it's like we're sharing. It's a co-journey. It's not just me teaching the kids. They are, and I learned something just as exciting from them. And it's an exchange, and that's what I learn. That's what I teach and model my students, that you continue to share with other people, and with authentic conversation, and so that they can find it's a part of the self-discovery process. So it's and another student, she's a Canadian student interested in art, originally from Beijing, and so we last conversation we talked about conceptual art. We talked about the father of conceptual art, Marcel Duchamp. He created an artwork using a urinal, upside down urinal, and then he called it a fountain. So, it's like opening their hearts and their minds, and it's always very exciting. And I would give a little assignment, using something in your house, some everyday object, to see if you can turn it around and then make an art out of it. So it's so guidance like that, by having some activities and having conversations that are thought-provoking. That's how I get to know my students. And so some of them are really difficult. If you just say, "What's your passion? What do you want to do?" And that's just like a one-directional conversation. It's not a sharing. So yes, I would say 9th grade.
Okay, so next question. So any suggestion for Canadian students? So in order to attend the Ivy League university in States, do they have to switch to US for high school, or they can just stay in Canada? So which way is much more easier for them to attend the top schools in US?
Well, you would want to be, if you have a choice, if you can, I would say, definitely a top US private school, or a top US boarding school. Public school, I don't think it's possible. I'm not sure. Maybe there's some visa stuff that they can as well. But public school, you have to have parents with you. And private schools, you can have homestay. Boarding school, of course, you can live on campus. I would definitely suggest the American schools. And there are also other ways. That one of my students from Italy, actually, he went to school in England, London. Very good school, boarding school, but he didn't get, so he came to me after he had disappointed result. So we applied to we call it postgraduate schools, so a PG school. So some students, when they don't have a really great result, instead of going go anyway, there are also a lot of schools, a lot of boarding schools especially, offer PG year. So he did his PG year, and he got into the school that he wanted to. So there are other ways, but if you go to a really great Canadian school, and you don't want your child to leave home, you don't have to. It's really what your child does while he is at the school. Public school, private school, boarding school. It's how do you encourage your child to to take advantage of everything that has to offer. So, if you do really, really, really well in a Canadian school or a public school, and you take amazing responsibilities, do a wonderful service like what Serena did. Serena went to public school, and she was amazing, crazy amount of scholarships coming toward her way, all merits, right? So, but because she was going to public schools and she had the time at home and created this wonderful service, United Under Arts. So there's really, if she would have been in private school, boarding school, she might have created too. I don't know, but I know that that because she was able to play saxophone every Sunday for at this nursing home. It was a Flushing in New York City. I'm not sure if it's Chinese actually, but anyway, she found her passion, and I gave her a tiny little spark and gave her this film to watch, and then she just took off. But if she was in boarding school, she would not have been. She might have watched a film and go, okay, well that's good, and she wouldn't be able to go out and every Sunday and play saxophone for for nursing home. But then she might have done something else. Knowing Serena, she probably would have done something else anyway. So it just depends on each child. Okay, and another question.
Yeah, I'm mute. Okay, so next question. So regarding the IB and AP, I saw this question several times.
Oh, yeah.
So which one's better?
There's no difference. IB and AP, they're the same. It's just different system. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So
when they apply for the college, do you think admission officers, they will have any preference?
Not for elite colleges, no. Not for top 50, and it's the same, because you have the AP scores, you have the IB scores. So there's no difference.
Okay, so which one's harder? I think IB, right?
It's just different system. I wouldn't say IB is harder than AP. They're both basically advanced. It just shows that you could do first year college level. That's really what it is. And the AP, for example, for UCs and for most elite colleges, before you used to be able to get college credit, but now it just means that instead of if you have AP calculus. It just means that, when you take math, you could skip that when you go to college, since you have the AP score of 4 and 5. But I wouldn't say IB is more difficult than AP. It's just different system.
Okay. Okay. Next question. Actually, it's a pretty good question. So in private and boarding schools, there are more support regarding the college application process, right? They have a lot of guidance counselors. Why do you think students still need outside counselors?
They do because it's so they are not going to spend the time. For example, let's just say essay. Right, writing your common essays or writing your supplements, you can show them what you wrote, and then they can give you some comments, but they're not going to give you 7, 8, 9 drafts. They're not going to personally talk to you about it. They just don't have the time. That 20 students per one, that's probably like minimum, and then the other one is like probably 1 to 40 to 1 to 20. So when you have 20 students, but then that's not only thing they do. They have to do a whole bunch of other work. So While as independent education consultant like myself, that is my work. I have X amount of students, and these are the students I focus, and that's it. And that is my work, full-time work. So I know to help my students when I was teaching, that's how I got started when I saw most Chinese students were not being helped, especially the international students. So that's when I started to work with the college counseling department and really find out how to help my students who are being passed over. And Asian students especially, as well as Asian Americans, because they're not as vocal. I see my other students, they would just go, just keep on so-called bothering, just sitting outside the college counseling office, and their parents will come and all the time. And while as Asian American students and the families, they're much more, it's like we don't want to bother them, So it's culturally, because of sometimes culturally we're more humble, and sometimes it kind of works against us as well. So what was the question? Sorry.
That's actually you answer the question why they need the actual support. Yeah. I want to give one more example regarding this question. 其实我这边有一些父母的话，他们的孩子去的是Philip Exeter 或者是 Andover， 他们也在问我这边推荐外部的这个咨询哈，外部的这个顾问。其实我也是问题是，我说你去到那么好的学校了，为什么还需要额外的再出来花钱找外面的这一个顾问？我个人也是觉得很惊讶哈。然后他们说其实就是孩子在学校里面的话呢especially Asian kids， 他们如果很安静的话，他不一定能拿到那么多的 attention。那如果孩子的性格又不是说是喜欢去我们说走关系哈，走关系，我觉得还是这个也算是一种走关系。如果他不喜欢去走关系的话，他其实拿不到足够多的这一个 attention。那这个时候他觉得其实再多的 counselor 给到的这个支持还是这个家长觉得还是不足的。对，所以这个的话也是可以和家长们分享一下这一个就是大概的一个情况哈。好的，next question， I think we kind of answer this question, but if you want to just give more like specific answer, if a student is anonymous type of student, which means not really outstanding, not really fall to certain side, what kind of school is better, private or public school, big class or small class?
You mean student who is kind of quiet type?
可能是在中间吧，就是说不是非常的那个个性，不是非常的鲜明的。
Okay.
我说在中间的学生不是很 outstanding 或也不是很差，对。
If 他如果有选择的话，I mean I'm actually at heart I'm a public school advocate because if all the parents who send their kids to private school and public and boarding school to public schools, our public schools will be twice as good because all the 就是把好的学生都外流了是吧？所以就是公立学校就是如果是私立学校没有的话。公立学校的那水平会最起码好2倍，but that's not the reality. The reality is not. So I would consider a private school or boarding school, but again, there are many different kinds of private schools and many different kinds of boarding schools, and you have to find a good fit. Good fit is so important, and for average student, you want that student to have a chance to shine. And public school is a little bit difficult. You have to have a lot of drive, and like Serena is just one of those kids who just, you give her an idea and she just, she just, goes for it. Her resume is 2 pages. Fine, like an 8 point. She did so much, but you have to be really self-motivated, and it's more difficult. And also teenagers do not want anybody to tell them what to do, especially parents. I mean, like I have 2 daughters. They were teenagers before, so I know. So it's like, so it's a little bit difficult for parents to push their kids to do things in the public school. But while as it's just because of Andover and Exeter, like I have, Lynn is in Andover right now. Just because of those top schools, it doesn't mean you're going to be happy. You have to find out what your student personality, what kind of fit what kind of environment that person would thrive. So my current this one boarding school that this family from Beijing had decided to go send their daughter to, and there's no after 9 p.m. I think there's no more Wi-Fi, like zero Wi-Fi, and students, they need to work at the school. They need to take responsibilities, and the thing is, this girl is totally ready for it, and by having this kind of environment, she will be able to be part of the community 100%. And because she's this kind of student that socially can fit really well with others. So I really wanted to find a school that will give her 100% opportunity, that she'll be 100% part of the community. And so, finding a school where everybody work together, and there's, you sweep floors, you wipe tables, you cook and you clean, and so anyway, so for this student, it was just excellent fit, and geographically as well. So each person is different, and you have to find the school that can offer you. Some schools are too competitive. I mean, some private schools, and maybe when you go in there, you feel insecure. My Andover kid had a really hard time. 9th and 10th grade, she was. It was really difficult. She had almost no friend, and because everybody came from top middle school, and but we worked through it, and now she's doing service. She's one of the leaders. But you have to have some guidance, because it's being a teenager in America is not easy, and try to go to an elite college. That pressure is it's pretty daunting, and so and for me, this is the meat of my work. Helping kids apply in college, and the process is to help them grow as a person, so that they can mature and they can have some tools to take with them, and during their schooling in high school, but also and beyond, so they can take these tools with them. And I'm hoping, I'm passing on life skills.
Okay, so next question. Somebody asked, what's your major in the university?
Yeah, well, I'm multifaceted, 多元化. Fine art for bachelor, and MBA, master in business for master's.
Okay.
And I know it's like right brain, left brain fighting with each other. I'm still an artist, and I studied conceptual art. It's the idea that matters, not the product. So, and it carries to my work doing college consulting. It's the idea. How do I help my students find ideas for activities, for passion, for their college essays.
Okay, so next question. 有人问美国的文理学院和我们常说的 Top 20的大学有什么异同 相比之下，文理学院是不是更容易进
？No. So Williams, Swarthmore, Pomona, those are all the top 都是那个最好的文理学院。So I'll just give you an example of my daughter, Shawna. Shawna got rejected by Swarthmore, rejected by Pomona, but got into Brown. So it's not 并不是一个容易一个难。It's 文理学院主要是他们的 focus 是大学生，不是how do you say masters 不是那个硕士跟博士学生，因为文理学院他们没有很多的那个博士跟硕士的课程，所以就是教授都是直接教学生，不是像那个就是普通的综合大学呢，很多的大一的课程都是就是选那个修选博士的学生在教，不是真正的那个正式的教授在教。so 就是文理学院呢，他们的 focus 完全是在本科学生。而且文理学院的，因为我的大女儿去的是文理学院巴德学院，她的课程呢都是很小的，最多她最多是有一个大课程，她就很大课是20个学生，是从8个到通常是12个学生左右，所以就是跟师生的关系很密切，然后就是知识分子，所以文理学院呢，这就是对你的那个知识的素质，知识分子的素质看得很重，所以就是文理学院呢，他们当然什么都有什么数学本科啊，什么电脑本科都有，不过他们的主要的教授的主要的教育就是教育本科学生，而且是规模小，so more focus on the undergraduate students.
Okay, so next question, for the well-rounded students not showing the specific interest, do you have any suggestion to make them actually stand out?
Well, let's say, if they come during senior year, that would be hard. They would be like, no,
that's a very big question. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, if they come late, that it would not be. It would be really difficult to say, okay, you're gonna find a passion this summer, it's usually through listening, asking the right questions. That's when just having conversation and just listening, and usually something you can pick up something. For Lynn, the last case study, for example, she just had dance, and that's not enough. Everything is just dance. Her entire activity was only dance. So when that happened, 她只有舞蹈的，什么都没有。So 因为是我是她高那位 before junior year I got her. So she had such a hard time with school. Oh yeah.
Yeah, this one, right? Yeah, because I think somebody asked. Yeah,
that's good. It's because we can. So this is this is so, and then you can see her resume. Was just only dance before, dance. But the thing is, her life was just she's well rounded in a way because she has social life, she has a leadership and but she was very, very insecure. So during pandemic, when she came home, just rebelled against her mom and had a fight with her sister. And so we started talking a lot. I did a lot of intervention, both parents and her. And she started to become interested in, because then I asked her what kind of book she was reading. And she was reading a lot of philosophy, and some of them start touching on psychology. So I recommended some books to her. And she was interested in feminist theory as well. So by recommending some books, and then so we started talking. Our meetings actually in the beginning, the first month, I met her every week because it was just we had to catch up. And our conversation was really about these books that she was reading and the books that I recommended her to read. And that's when she started to become really interested in psychology. So that summer we applied to UCSB, and that was the beginning of her this particular passion that she devoted the next and it's just still devoting it next 2 years. And so she's kind of well-rounded per se, that she got into Andover. She plays piano. She's award-winning pianist and dancer, and her grades were okay. The grades were not the best. But we worked on that as well. Her senior grade just really took off. But it's because she was having doubt. She was having such a miserable time socially, feeling that she's not good enough. And so we worked a lot on that, about what it means to be good enough. So I had given her just even after all this college app is done, a couple of weeks ago, she called me. She says, my choreography is gonna suck. That's what she said. It's gonna be terrible compared to this other girl, Mary's. And so I we talked about that, and I gave her some slogans, and I said, you're for example. And she says, well, I'm not even going to show up. It's just my choreography. The dancer's going to dance. And so I told her, it's really important to suit up and show up. If you don't want to show up for yourself, but you got to show up for other choreographer, even the ones that you're insecure and try to compare yourself with. You got to do service. So for her was all about service. So that's how she came out of herself. It's like, okay, it's not all about me. It's about other people. And when she started to come to make it not all about herself. So anyway, so that's how she got to stand out. She became quite a leader.
Okay, yeah. So somebody asked me to show the girl who got UVA.
Oh yeah, that's her. Yeah.
What's the result? Oh, sorry. What's the major? What's the major?
She's waiting for her results right now.
Okay.
Not right now. We did only early action.
Okay.
And she did not want to do any ED. She just wanted to have it. She didn't have a particular school that she really, really, really loved. And so we agreed. Then we do everything regular action.
Sorry, my dog was pestering me to open the door, let her out. Okay, so.
And I also have another student like Hudson. He was ED2 and Wesleyan, and ED1 was Brown, but he didn't have the grades, and I was, so I think I could go up. Oh yeah, this one, and he didn't have the grades, but his grades were okay, but it's a little bit short for Brown. His activities were fantastic, so there was a slight chance because of his activities, amazing leadership. But his grades were just, his SAT barely at 15-20, but his GPA was just a little bit. I didn't have any confidence, but his family really wanted him to try it, and he really wanted to try it. So I respected their decision. But I always tell family very transparent, and just my assessment, and it's not a verdict, because there is a slight chance, but it wasn't big enough for me to say yes, ED and Brown, because Wesleyan was a perfect school for him, and I wanted him to ED there. But he says, I'll ED too there if I don't get into Brown. And but I prepared him really well, that the possibility of getting in is so slim, and he was okay when he didn't get when he was.
Yeah. Okay, so since now the time's running short, we're already 11 p.m. at East Coast, so I will just pick some questions to ask. So, sure. So somebody asked, in private high school with many legacies, can Asian kids get a fair treatment when applying for Ivy League schools?
Oh yeah, we're talking about this lawsuit, for example, Harvard. Is this something like that we're talking about?
No, this person just asking in general, because the private high schools with many legacies, right? So I mean, if the Asian kids, the family has no legacy, or maybe the first person went to this private school, where they get the fair treatment.
Yeah,
applying for university.
Yeah, it's a good question. And legacy is a big deal. The thing is, right now there is a conversation started about doing away with legacy. So this is I think it's the first year this conversation started, and there are a lot of schools are thinking about scrapping legacy part, because the with the test optional, the Ivy, well, I wouldn't say Ivy, they'll just say elite schools, gene pool has gotten better, so it's not always the same same kind of a background family kids go there, but it's still not enough, and they have so much money now. So they don't really need money as much as before. They just have, with the recent years stock markets doing really well, for example. So money is no longer the issue, because legacy is really about money at the end of the day. So that's a bit of good news. But this question is actually a really good question. And if I look at, I can't say about other schools because I don't have the kind of inside information. But for my daughter's school, that I know the kids who got into the Ivy schools, I would say, I know the Yale one was legacy. Stanford was legacy. One was legacy. And I would say half was legacy, half was not. So yes, if there was no legacy, maybe 3/4 would have gotten in. But it is even private schools, private high schools or boarding schools, top ones, there usually half is reserved. I would not say half, but a big percentage. Maybe up to half, or maybe 30% is reserved for legacy students, and that is just the overall practice. And so therefore, boarding schools and the private schools, as well as Ivy, or not just Ivies, but private school. I mean, Ivy colleges are, there's a whole big controversy out there. So more will be revealed. So for now, we don't really know. We don't really know whether, that's why for Asian kids it's so important that you don't just come across as, academic achievement. And even all the activities, you can just see some Asian kids' resume just look like, they need more soft skills, and they need to also show these soft skills on paper. And so I've helped a lot of students, very often pro bono, public school students. I do pro bono work for public school students, and not a lot because I can only do so many, but for essays especially. And it needs so much work, because they come across, they just do not come across engaging and interesting. Like Serena, just Duke supplement. She just described all the siren is happening, that the ambulance, at 3 a.m. Passing under my door, going to the hospital across the street, but there's no emotion involved. So how do you bring that emotionality? How do you present yourself? It could be the exact same activities. It could be the exact same schools. Sorry, I'm going to drink a little water. It could be the exact same background, but it's all how you present it. It's not how you package it. It's not 包装, because when you 包装, it's like you can, for experienced essay readers or application readers, you could tell right away. But how do you express everything that you do, that reads that you're passionate, that you're authentic, that you are alive, so that when whoever reads your packet, your essays or your activities, they can get excited about it. So it's not just a list of things that you've done, and it's how you present it. But it's not just that at the end you just kind of tweak some words, but it has to come from them. Like for Serena, I could have certainly just go, okay, let me just rewrite that, but it's not her voice. So when you scroll up a little bit to slide 28, I think 26. But anyway, that when she finally says she wasn't worried about her mom, I said, well, put it down there. That's exactly what you're feeling. And she said, oh yeah, but it's kind of 不好意思. It's like, I said, no, this is exactly how you're feeling. Put it down. It's totally fine. And so I have to kind of encourage them. I'm from South Korea to Shandong parents, or Shandong grandparents, and parents too. But, we're very expressive people, especially in Korean culture, where, we cry and we scream and we yell and we laugh, and it's a very expressive culture. And I usually try to bring that out of my students, especially my Chinese students. Just like worrying about my mom. It's like, okay, how do you feel when you hear the siren, more ambulance coming into the hospital, that your mom is working there? Her mom was just beginning to do her intern there, and she said, "Yeah, I'm really worried." I was like, "Okay, write that down." She said, "Yeah, but that is not, that's not whatever." I said, "No, but you put yourself in it. You gotta put yourself in it." So we had to be less 不好意思 and less humble, and dare to show ourselves, and authentically, not just like, look what I've done, but this is how I did it.
Okay, so next question. If a student did not get into a satisfying college, do you suggest do a gap year and continue applying next season, or just go to the college and do the transfer later?
Yeah, I think go to the college and transfer later is fine. Because you can, I had a student, well, he got into Boston College. He liked it, he thought, but then he 2 months later he didn't like it, and then so he went to William and Mary. He thought that we thought it was a great fit, but then he didn't like it. He's from Shanghai, a very very particular example. And eventually we found a program that he really liked, Columbia. So he went to Columbia in the third year, second year, each year different school until Columbia. So that was that case. And gap year is great. I think anybody who could do a gap year, I'm a huge advocate for a gap year. The student will be much more. They can start think about, what kind of activity or what kind of experience that they would like, and they can write a whole different application. It's like, but they do have to have some kind of idea what they want to do for gap year, not just sitting at home and playing computer game, for example. It's fun, but something that's not programmed. Something, it could be a program, but it has to be meaningful work. And that will show through their application when the kids have find something meaningful to do. And so even in gap year, yes, I would definitely say if they would have, if they could go to a gap year, and yes, that's definitely yes. I think both, yes to both. But if they really don't like the college, then I would just say gap year. But if college is like doable, it's like, okay, maybe like 60-40, then they can always transfer. I mean, they may just fall in love with it after they go.
Okay. Okay. Maybe we do the last question. So do you feel actually a student in public school will have more free time to do whatever they are more passionate about than private and boarding school? I think you mentioned that, right?
Yes, definitely, because they can, they have the whole world. They have the whole world out there to do whatever they wanted to do. That's why Serena was able to play saxophone. But there's always a way to work around it. Lynn was able to become an intern for a really big mental health organization, and a paid intern. And so she was able to use her online platform, because these days, because of Zoom and online, you can actually still, you can actually have the world at your door, but it's much more difficult. So I mean, but then for the public school, you also have a different dilemma because you have so many choices. So you need some guidance and focusing on doing things that you don't spread yourself too thin.
Okay, so I think there's one more question I want to add to it. Being a top 10 in a top private school versus a top 10 in a good public school, which one do you think the college will prefer? So which one will got more possibility to get into a good college?
I would say private school.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the strength of curriculum. I'm not talking about special public schools. I'm talking about good, middle class, upper middle class neighborhood school. I'm not talking about like Stuyvesant in New York or Lowell High School in San Francisco, that kind. But just a good, really good neighborhood, public school. The public school students usually takes a couple of years to catch up. Once they go to I actually verified with my daughter. They say they all catch up by third year, but it first couple of years is really hard. So given given the same student, same background, you'll have more chance of getting accepted in private schools, because the schools are better known, and your top 10% in public school, you may have, I don't know, 100 kids or 50 kids that you have to compete with, but while as in private school, maybe you only have 10 kids to compete with.
Okay, so I think it's already pretty late. So if some questions you still want to seek the answer from Shawna Lee, I think I already shared the QR code, and you can either contact me or just join our WeChat group, and we will share the form in the WeChat group. Again, if you're interested in talking with Shawna Lee, okay? So let's call it tonight, and thank you everybody. And thank you, Shawna Lee. Yeah. So let's call it tonight, and everybody happy Saturday. Yeah.
And thank you very much for your attendance. I really appreciate having all of you, and good luck and best of luck to all of your students.
Okay. Bye bye.